Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
Doing today, everybody? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Coach on 12 Out Sports. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We are live in the rainy Baltimore, Maryland, home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who is all excited for today's show? Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into any breaking news segments that we have here today, I do not want you guys to go anywhere today whatsoever, because we have special guest at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. NHL Network analyst Jamison Koya will call me live onto the show. For all you NHL fans out there, you simply do not want to go anywhere. I am excited for this. And I've been in contact with him the last week. He's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be hopefully a wonderful call-in segment today. Guest on the show. So without further ado, let's get it on to this breaking news stuff. First, let's start with the breaking news of North Carolina Tar Heels coach Roy Williams retiring from college basketball. And no, that's not an April Fool's joke. He won 3 national championships in 2005, 2009, and 2017. Now I wonder who's going to be the next head coach. Maybe it's Jerry Stackhouse, the current coach at Vanderbilt, and an alumnus. Not alumnus, he's an alumni of the North Carolina Tar Heels. So that's one name to keep an eye on for the head coach. We will see what direction North Carolina heads in, because they are typically a blue blood program of college basketball. Next, breaking news thing that I have here today. And no, this is not an April Fool's joke. I kind of wanted to give you guys some April Fool things, but honestly, it's kind of better for my repertoire that I don't do such a thing today, is that Francisco Lindor has signed a 10-year, $341 million contract with the New York Mets extension, and it kicks in the next year. The Hart parents of the New York Mets, Francisco Lindor, has provided a new day for this franchise. He gets traded from the Cleveland Indians to the New York Mets this offseason, and here we are. Steve Cohen puts his money where his mouth is, pays the man. Now go pay Michael Conforto, whoever else. You also get Carlos Carrasco in the same trade. The New York Mets have a ton of optimism heading into this season, not only on opening day, which is today, and I'll get to some of those ESPN games in just a minute. And I'm telling you, it's a new day for Mets fans and Yankees fans. Probably the worst fan base in the entire Major League Baseball, which just probably wants to traumatize Mets fans for all I care about. Because that's the way they are. And no, I'm not going to change my stance on it. And no, I'll continue to keep throwing punch after punch, because that's what I do here on the media sometimes. I'll throw my punches and I'll take my chances. And even if the New York Mets win the World Series this year in 2021, which I had predicted on last week's show, against the Toronto Blue Jays in the World Series, here I am on the 157th show today saying this. Last week was 156. And now let me say this. Even if they were to win the World Series, you know there will be some Yankees fans out there on Twitter and Facebook that will just give it to the Mets fans and still say 27-3, because that's just the way they roll. And I was texting a Miami Marlins fan about this last night, and I simply said, New York Yankee fans are just the worst when it comes to this. And he's like, yeah. Most of their fan base probably wasn't even alive for most of their World Series rings anyways, probably just saw a couple of them, right? But New York Mets fans have been waiting since 1986. And they're sure to find a way to spoil the moment, even if they win the 2021 World Series. Actually, excuse me, it should not be if. It should be hopefully when they win the World Series in 2021. That's what I'm going to go with here with the New York Mets. Now let's get into the opening day games today. So the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park were scheduled for 2:10 first pitch, but that game has been postponed due to rainy conditions and inclement weather, and we will see an opening day will be tomorrow instead of there. So it'll be 14 instead of 15 games today. Here are the 4 ESPN games. Starts at 1:05. Toronto Blue Jays, New York Yankees. Let's go with Hinyu Ryu versus Garrett Cole to pitch a matchup. Yankees probably win. Sadly, unfortunately, hopefully the Blue Jays win. Would give me much happiness. Nachas, I guess you could say, means happiness. That would just be wonderful. The second game at 4:10 p.m. Eastern will be the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Colorado Rockies. So the pitching matchups, Clayton Kershaw versus German Marquez. Dodgers probably win that one easily. Let's be real here. The Colorado Rockies are in for a long season. The third game at 7:09 p.m. Eastern will be the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals. Give me this pitcher matchup. Jacob deGrom versus Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer, the RPO of that Washington Nationals pitcher staff. As I've always said, as long as he and Steven Strasburg are healthy, they'll be fine. You got Juan Soto. And you also have Josh Bell and Kyle Schwarber. As for the New York Mets, Michael Conforto. I actually got my Jacob deGrom shirt under this today, under my sweater. It'll be a fun pitcher matchup. Hopefully the Mets take down the Washington Nationals. We will see. And we'll see about that one. So, the fourth and final game on ESPN, the third game between New York Mets and Washington Nationals at 7:09, will be the first primetime game. The second primetime game will be the Houston Astros and the Oakland Athletics, 10:07, 10:08 Eastern Time. And that pitching matchup will be Zach Greinke versus Chris Bassett. I said the Oakland Athletics will win this division. Maybe the Houston Astros win opening day here today. And that's all I got for baseball. March Madness, here we go. You know what time it is? I got it on this sweatshirt, baby. Welcome to the Final Four instead of North Texas Showdown. It's Final Four 2021 Indianapolis Showdown. The road ends here. This was from 2014. When Florida, not Michigan. It was Florida, UConn, Wisconsin, and Kentucky that made the Final Four. Here we have, in this year's Final Four, number 11 UCLA, number 1 Gonzaga, number 2 Houston, and number 1 Baylor. And let me tell you what I feel about the Final Four this year. But before I get into the Final Four, here's my quick thoughts for the Sweet 16 Elite 8. Number 1, I actually really thought Loyola Chicago was going to get to the Final Four, and I was actually kind of disappointed. maybe that headline by The Athletic was a little bit of a jinx. Are they the next Gonzaga? Well, you got to go through some growing pains to be the next Gonzaga. Gonzaga didn't make it to the Final Four right away all these times. They lost some heartbreaking Sweet 16 games, and they done this and they done that, and then they got their reputation under themselves, and they're 2 games away from completing the undefeated season. And the other thing is that Michigan, I thought they were going to beat UCLA. They should have taken smarter shots against them in the final seconds, but they chucked up a 3, and one of the players just tried to do one of those skyhook layups, and it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and it simply did not work. Absolutely, relatively did not work whatsoever. So, here's how I feel about the Final Four. I don't think either Final Four game between number 11 UCLA versus number 1 Gonzaga, 5:14 p.m. Eastern Time tip-off, and then 8:34 p.m. Eastern Time tip-off between number 2 seeded Houston Cougars and number 1 Baylor Bears. And it's usually 6:09 Eastern and 8:49 Eastern Time in any normal year. But let me say this. The Final Four games this year, not including the national championship, is going to remind me of 2016 when the Oklahoma Sooners were blown out by the Villanova Wildcats, and when the North Carolina Tar Heels blew out the Syracuse Orangemen, and then the 2016 national championship game was probably the greatest game that I have ever watched in my entire life. With that Chris Jenkins buzzer beater and Marcus Page tying the game with under 5 seconds remaining. And I'm going to say this. Gonzaga and Baylor will win convincingly this weekend. They will both win this weekend. I think UCLA had a nice run, but you could only rely on one player for a while. But then yet again, we had these magical runs. They went for the first for the Final Four, first team to do that since VCU did it in 2011. But I think Gonzaga beats them by double digits, by 10 or more. There's really not a lot of weaknesses with Gonzaga and Jalen Suggs and the rest of the crew. Coached by Mark Few. Also, lastly, with Houston and Baylor, I think Baylor wins convincingly. It's not a knock on Houston. Houston is the only team in NCAA history to get to the Final Four with playing only double-digit seeds in your first 4 games. And I'm not saying Houston doesn't belong to be here. I'm not saying that. The problem is when you do play only double-digit seeds, you have a gut feeling that Houston is going to get blown out of the water against the Baylor team that can defend and shoot the 3. And I think Houston is a little bit scrappy, and it can make it interesting for the first half. I think they get tired of the second half and realize what kind of different animal the Baylor Bears are, and Houston Cougars will have nothing to be ashamed of. And then I believe I will be sitting on this chair Monday morning saying how we all anticipated number 1 Baylor versus number 1 Gonzaga to be in the national championship game. And I'm going to be talking about how it potentially may be the game for the ages. Because I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sitting on this chair at the same time Monday morning and talking about that. So that's it with my March Madness segment. I'm done with baseball and basketball segments, March Madness, and NBA, NFL. I want to talk NFL today, but I'll save that for next week. Use promo code 12-Ounce Sports, all cash, positive bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. Get to $1,000 with your first deposit. MyBookie.ag, promo 12-Ounce Sports, 12-Ounce Sports, quench your thirst. We are live on Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. Ladies and gentlemen, in case you're just tuning into my show, in about 30 minutes from now at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, NHL Network analyst Jameson Coyle will call live onto the show and we'll discuss a ton of NHL topics, as he always says. Let's talk some pucks, baby. He's always a bright mind when it comes to that stuff. One of the best in the business. And ladies and gentlemen, I cannot simply wait for it. And as I always do on every show, I always like to thank J.B. Beck, Cody Jensen, Tyler Valdez, Michael Cavallis, Lou Gamelin, Mitch Bernstein, Philly Pete, and I'm sure he's going to have some interesting thoughts about the Philadelphia Flyers losing to the Buffalo Sabres last night. And I'm sure he's going to share those thoughts with you. And if you think I am bad with the Pittsburgh Penguins losing sometimes, you may want to tune in after him. Because, oh boy, you probably don't want to miss what he has to say. Maybe he'll just have to hide it under the rug and just want to talk some sports gambling or betting. So you don't want to miss that either. But now let's get back to my show. We are going to stick with hockey for the rest of today's show. I didn't know how many topics I would have, so I'm just going to go through this quickly here. So what I came up with, I'm just going to go through it very quickly. I did a first 16 picks NHL Mock Draft 2021. This is from what I did last week, and I just felt like I wanted to talk about it. So, as always, number one pick to the Buffalo Sabres. I'll get to the NFL mock draft next week. I'm taking Matthew Beaners, center, left winger, University of Michigan, NCAA. Number two, the Iowa Senators. Owen Power, left-handed defenseman from the University of Michigan, NCAA. Number three, Seattle Kraken. Because they're a new team, they have to go in the draft lottery right away. So, William Eklund, center, left winger, Desjardins, IFSHL. Number four, Anaheim Ducks. Luke Hughes, left-handed defenseman, U.S. National Team Development Program. The brother of New Jersey Devils centerman forward Jack Hughes. And also the brother of Vancouver Canucks defenseman Quinn Hughes. So that's a name to keep an eye on. And that would be an interesting defensive pairing in the future. Luke Hughes and Jamie Drysdale. Anaheim's in a complete rebuild here. And it's simply not a surprise. Number 5, Detroit Red Wings. Fabian Liza, left winger for London J20 Super Elite. Not a shock. Those are the kind of players that general manager Steve Yzerman likes to go after. He did a lot of Frölunda players last year. One drafted for Detroit Red Wings. And that farm system is going to get better over time. Because look at the way the Tampa Bay Lightning is currently constructed. He has done a lot of things with Grayson Glass over the years for a ton of these organizations. And it's simply not a surprise. Number 6, the San Jose Sharks. Now, this is an interesting one. Because it's very rare for goalies to go in the top 10. Jesper Wallstedt. Goalie Lula HF SHL. Number 7, New Jersey Devils. Brant Clark, defenseman HC Nov Zamke SVK League. So the Devils, yeah, you got Ty Smith for the future, but you also have to realize they're going to need some more defense. You're going to trade away PK Subban. David Severson's not going to stay there forever. They're thin on the blue line when it comes to young core players. They have a ton of forwards, like a Michael McLeod and Yegor Sharangovich, Pavel Zacha, Miles Wood. They're pretty good when it comes to young forwards. They just need some more young defensemen other than Ty Smith. And I think I do like Mackenzie Blackwood for them in the long run. But that is something remain to be seen with the New Jersey Devils franchise. With the 8th pick, the Dallas Stars, they take Kent Johnson, centerman, University of Michigan. NCAA, that was a loaded team. They had to unfortunately withdraw due to coronavirus reasons from the NCAA tournament. Number 9, Nashville Predators. Simon Edvinsson, left-handed defenseman for London SHL. Let me tell you something. Nashville loves their Swedish defenseman. That I can tell you. They absolutely love him. That is That would be something typical that Nashville would take. Number 10, New York Rangers. Too ratty. Sentiment Karpat. SM Liga League. They need some more sentiment down the middle. They're not exactly, in my opinion, drafted well for some reason down the middle. Elias Anderson didn't pan out well for them. They had to trade him. Filipino's coming along, but I feel like there's some sort of ceiling that I don't like with him for some reason. Alexis Lafreniere, Capo Capco, they've been major underachievers. You wonder if they either need A, coaching change, or B, maybe the New York Rangers are not scouting the guys correctly. Number 11 was supposed to be the Arizona Coyotes pick, but they have forfeited the 2021 first-round NHL draft pick due to violations of the NHL combine testing policy. Number 12, the Los Angeles Kings. Carson Lambos, left-handed defenseman, Winnipeg, WHL. They have one of the better farm systems in the entire National Hockey League. They just continue to get rich and rich. As they say, the rich get richer, right? And when the rich do get richer, that's where you can become a serious team, and that's what they'll be in a couple years. I remember when I heard that the Los Angeles Kings have one of the better farm systems in the NHL, and I kind of laughed about it a couple years ago. I'm like, huh? Los Angeles Kings? They have this good farm system? Like, oh, that's what happens when you got to do a little bit of research. Number 13, the Chicago Blackhawks. Dylan Guenther, white right winger, Edmonton, WHL. Continue to get young forwards, wingers, because Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews won't be there forever. And you have to wonder if Jonathan Toews is ever going to see the NHL ice again. He's done a lot of things in his NHL career, Grayson Class. That's just the way he is personified the way in his NHL career. Because if Toews were to retire, maybe you could get Patrick Kane the captain or Duncan Keith. I talked about this with my dad and some other people. So I'm curious to see if Jonathan Toews today had to suddenly retire, you think Patrick Kane would be the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks? So number 14, Columbus Blue Jackets, Cole Sillinger, center left winger, Medicine Hat, WHL. Number 15, Calgary Flames, Chas Luicius, centerman, U.S. National Team Development Program. Number 16, Philadelphia Flyers, Oscar Alusan, left winger, right winger, HV71 SHL. So that's my quick mock draft for the NHL. So now let's get into the more serious side of things for the NHL. Let's go with my current top 10 teams right now in the NHL. Starting with number 10, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, you got Austin Matthews and Mitchell Marner. But you're not going anywhere with Jack Campbell and Freddie Anderson in net. With the Vancouver Canucks signing Thatcher Demko to a 5-year, $5.25 million per year contract extension, the Toronto Maple Leafs should call the Vancouver Canucks about Braden Holtby because he is a lot better than Jack Campbell and Freddie Anderson are, and you can re-sign Holtby at the end of the year compared to keeping Freddie Anderson and Jack Campbell around. Number 9, Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, I know Toronto beat them last night. But if you switch Connor Hellebuck to the Toronto Maple Leafs, they would be one of the favorites to win the whole thing. They probably still are. But Connor Hellebuck, and I think the Winnipeg Jets with Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler got hurt last night. But honestly, that Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor chemistry is ridiculous on the second line. That's a team I think is the most balanced with Andrew Copp. Number 8, the Florida Panthers. Same reason why I have them this low is my same reason why I'm concerned with Toronto. Sergei Bobrovsky and Chris Driedger is not the answer in net. This is very simple. This is a typical Joel Quenneville team. An elite offense, not a bad defensive pairing, but very average goaltending. This reminded me of 2015 with Chicago Blackhawks, where Corey Crawford, who I thought was the worst goalie ever to win 2 Stanley Cups, now you wonder if that title actually belongs to Matt Murray. Number 7, the New York Islanders. They desperately missed their captain, Anders Lee. But when you got a Barry Trotz team, you're still structured, and you're still going to be a threat every single night on the ice. Number 6, the Colorado Avalanche. I had them too low. I think I should have them ahead of Vegas. But Nathan McKinnon is in charge of that team. Jonas not scored with the hat-trick last night. Philip Grubauer, and they were talking about in the NHL Network last night that they need backup goaltending. Number 5, the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't think they have a player that you can really go to with the game on the line. I know it's not basketball where it's like, okay, you need a basket to win the game. But who's that guy in Vegas that you're going to get a clutch goal from? That's always my question. Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith are good players. The thing is, I don't think they have a great player. Max Pacioretty maybe comes close to it. Alex Pietrangelo. And Marc-Andre Fleury's held that net down for a while, and Shea Theodore is on the back end. Number 4, the Carolina Hurricanes. This is the most quietly dangerous hockey team in the NHL. Carolina's in a small market. No one wants to give them all the hype and the hoopla. They're well coached by Rob Brind'Amour. Oh, they're one of 4 teams that are tied for the President's Trophy lead with the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Washington Capitals, and the Florida Panthers. Well, they're actually just one back. So they're 1 point back of the Florida Panthers, the Washington Capitals, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Colorado Avalanche. Excuse me. So they're up and down. But Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Teuvo Teravainen, Martin Necas, and Warren Foegele, and they got an underrated blue line. Alex Nedeljkovic is one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL. He's not a top 10 goalie, but he's an average enough goalie that will get timely saves for Carolina and will get the job done. And Carolina Hurricanes fans like him a lot more than they do with James Reimer. Number 3, the Pittsburgh Penguins. No Getty Malkin recently, no Teddy Bluger, no Brandon Tanev, no Jason Zucker. I mean, they just keep going up and down the lineup. Brandon Tanev and Jason Zucker is probably expected to be back tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Boston Bruins. But I'm telling you, Mike Sullivan may be the best coach in Pittsburgh Penguins history. Man, maybe some people will be offended by Eddie Johnson. May he rest in peace. And then Dan Bylsma. But I'm just going to say this. The Pittsburgh Penguins need to give Mike Sullivan a contract extension once again, because he is basically doing a tremendous job of filling in Jim Rutherford's mess, the general manager, the former general manager, and we'll see if the president of hockey operations, Brian Burke, and current general manager Ron Hextall will make some trades. But honestly, rest in peace to the ideas if you're going to think about trading Chris Letang or Getty Malkin or Sidney Crosby. That's simply not happening, because for the sole reason why they want to keep the core band together as long as possible. And Tristan Jarry is day-to-day, but Casey DeSmith can get the job done. Number 2, the Washington Capitals. 4 lines deep, led by Alex Ovechkin. This guy simply cannot miss the net. He could shoot it from inside the Capital One Arena doors could be locked. And if someone can just open the door for him, he can shoot the puck 100 miles away to go in the net. He just got range like Steph Curry, the Golden State Warriors. And Vitek Vanacek cannot be thanked enough for the job he's done. Henrik Lundqvist had heart problems. He had to get heart surgery. And then Ilya Samsonov, he's playing a little bit more now. Keep an eye on that. I liked Vitek Vanacek as a potential Rookie of the Year candidate, but now that might be slowly but surely going back to Ilya Samsonov. And number one, not a surprise, the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's who I have here as number one. Andrei Vasilevskiy, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov come back for the playoffs. Brandon Point, they have depth players like Alex Gallant, Cedric Paquette, Anthony Cirelli, Victor Hedman. And that's all I got for that with John Cooper. So quickly, my top 10 teams in the NHL. Number 10, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Number 9, the Winnipeg Jets. Number 8, the Florida Panthers. Number 7, the New York Islanders. Number 6, the Colorado Avalanche. Number 5, the Vegas Golden Knights. Number 4, the Carolina Panthers. Number 3, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Number 2, the Washington Capitals. And number 1, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now let's go into the current NHL playoff picture in the standings. Let's start with the East Division. Number 1 is the Washington Capitals with a 23-8-4 record with 50 points. Number 2 is the New York Islanders at 22-10-4 with 48 points. Number 3 is the Pittsburgh Penguins at 23-11-2 with 48 points. Number 4, the Boston Bruins at 18-9-5 with 41 points. And if Pittsburgh beats Boston, New York beats Washington, all three of those teams will be tied for 50 points tonight. On the outside looking in, number 5, Philadelphia Flyers, 17-14-4 with 38 points. And number 6, New York Rangers, 16-15-4 with 30 points. 36 points, excuse me. Now let's go to the West Division. Colorado Avalanche, 23-8-4 record with 50 points. Number 2, the Vegas Golden Knights, 24-9-1 record with 49 points. Number 3, the Minnesota Wild, 21-11-2 record, 44 points. Number 4, the St. Louis Blues, 16-13-6 record with 38 points. And on the outside looking is number 5, Arizona Coyotes, 16-15-5 record, 37 points. North Division, I think this is set in stone for the playoffs. And I also think the East Division, too, is, honestly. Number 1, the Toronto Maple Leafs. 27-10-3 record with 49 points. Number 2, the Winnipeg Jets, 22-13-2 record with 46 points. Number 3, the Edmonton Oilers, 22-14-1 record with 45 points. And number 4, the Montreal Canadiens, 15-8-9 record with 39 points. Now let's go to the Central Division. Tampa Bay Lightning, number 1, 24-9-2 record with 50 points. Florida Panthers, 23-9-4 record with 50 points. Carolina Hurricanes, number 3, 23-8-3 record with 49 points. Number 4, Nashville Predators, 19-17-1 record with 39 points. And on the outside looking at number 5, Chicago Blackhawks, 17-15-5 record with 39 points. And number 6, the Columbus Blue Jackets, 14-16-8 with 36 points. So let me quickly, who I will tell you, who I think will win the Stanley Cup at the season ended today. Boston versus Washington. Give me Washington in 6. Pittsburgh versus New York Islanders. Give me Pittsburgh in 5. Washington-Pittsburgh. Washington in 6. So give Washington the Final Four here. West Division. Colorado-St. Louis. Take Colorado in 5. Minnesota-Vegas. Give me Minnesota in 6. North Division. Actually, no. Minnesota-Colorado. Give me Colorado in 5. North Division, Toronto-Montreal, Toronto in 6. Winnipeg-Edmonton, Winnipeg in 7. Winnipeg-Toronto, Winnipeg in 7. Tampa Bay, Florida, no. Tampa Bay-Nashville, Tampa Bay in 4. Florida-Carolina, Carolina in 7. Carolina-Tampa Bay in 7. So we have 50 points, and 46 points. So with what we have here, we have in the conference finals, Winnipeg, Tampa Bay. I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Lightning. Washington, Colorado. Give me Colorado. Colorado, Tampa Bay. Colorado wins the Stanley Cup, and they stop the Tampa Bay Lightning from repeating. I had Colorado, Tampa Bay, my Stanley Cup final last year, but I had Tampa Bay. But this year I had Tampa Bay versus, not Tampa Bay versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh versus Colorado, but the way it's kind of shaking out, I'm going to still defend my pick with the Colorado Avalanche. Use promo code 12-ounce sports, all cash with deposit bonus up to $1,000. For my bookie, we are live on 12-ounce sports. Get up to $1,000 bonus with your first deposit. MyBookie.ag, promo 12-ounce sports. 12-ounce sports, quench your sports thirst. Glance Dynamic Sports Corner. And in just about 10 minutes from now, NHL Network's Jameson Coyle will join me live on this show. So now, let me get into a couple of these game recaps here quickly. I'm just crossing a couple of these things out. So the Philadelphia Flyers versus Buffalo Sabres. So the Buffalo Sabres 18-game losing streak can now rest in peace. That's what it could do. This is embarrassing if you're the Philadelphia Flyers. The Buffalo Sabres, maybe they'll get on a win streak now against, they play the New York Rangers tonight. And the Philadelphia Flyers should simply be ashamed of themselves. And now I said this on my Twitter last night. The shakeup the Flyers should make is not head coach Alain Vigneault. They need a different captain. And I've been saying this for years. Since the 2012 playoffs, he's won one playoff series. Claude Giroux. An interesting trade the Flyers should make at the trade deadline. I know the Calgary Flames need a shakeup. And it fits the cap for both teams. And Claude Giroux's got 1 year left on his contract. You trade Claude Giroux to the Calgary Flames for Johnny Gaudreau and Sam Bennett, and you make a whole wake-up call for both of your teams, and Sean Couturier should be the next captain of the Philadelphia Flyers. He's tough. He's gritty. I think the team will respond much better to him if he was the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers than if Claude Giroux was the captain. That's how I personally feel. If Claude Giroux was traded to the Calgary Flames, he doesn't have to be the captain. He could just be the assistant captain, Mark Giordano, and that could personally fix things. But I will be right back. We're going to commercial break quickly.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money. And we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
Change your game with the all-new Pro Rock Hockey Stick, a Canadian company providing a top-of-the-line twig at an affordable price. Pro Rock sticks are extremely lightweight, balanced, and provide the perfect kick point. Get your fully customized stick today at ProRock.com. Play like a Pro Rock.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. So with the Philadelphia Flyers, do you all like that trade with the Flyers and the Flames? I think that would be an interesting one. And maybe you could also switch out a couple of prospects here and there. And lastly, in that 6-1 win. Some Buffalo players actually stepped up in that 6-1 win. Stephen Fogarty scored his first career NHL goal at the 9:42 mark. In the second period. Rookie defenseman Jacob Bryson had assist on goal to the Rasmus. For Stellani, the only Flyers goal of the game was even pro-rocked to 350 mark assist by Sean Couturier and Jakub Voracek. And their problems go a lot deeper than the Flyers goaltending. So let me get into my last NHL game recap here. Monday night with the Islanders and the Penguins in that 2-1 win. And Jari only made 5 saves in the game, but Casey DeSmith had to come in relief. He made 19 saves, played well. And Evgeny Malkin, Teddy Blue, Kasperi Kapanen, Brandon Tanev, and Jason Zucker out. But as I said earlier, Brandon Tanev and Jason Zucker are probably expected back in tonight's lineup for when the Pittsburgh Penguins take on the Boston Bruins. And we've all known this year, including myself, that the Pittsburgh Penguins always struggle when they have to play them. And I hope that Pittsburgh can finally win a game against the Boston Bruins. Because if late in the year, we know Pittsburgh, say if Pittsburgh loses, it's 1-7, 2-6 against them. They won't go 3-5, 4-4. But let's hope they do. Say they don't go 3-5 or 4-4. Say they go 2-6 and 1-7. Are you not going to tell me that if Sullivan's on the 1-2 line, fighting for the number 1 seed, Sullivan's going to be like, hey, we're not going to bother with our guys. We're just going to be like, hey, let's just sit out, top guys. Let's just go either play Washington Capitals, New York Islanders, first round, state applause. Son of Boston Bruins, because I would do that if I was Mike Sullivan. Do you really think that I would want them to play the Boston Bruins first round now? And as I said about the Jack Adams with Mike Sullivan, and here we go. And the 2 goals in the game by Pittsburgh. So there were only 2 goals in the game by Pittsburgh and only 1 by the Islanders. And then Semyon Varlamov finished the game with 20 saves for the New York Islanders. So Pittsburgh beat them 6-2 during the regular season. And now, lastly, before I get into my next segment, well, that's the last of the game recaps today. So, Jamison Coyles, in 2 minutes, he will be calling me live onto the show. Special guest, NHL Network analyst, Jamison Coyles. So, this is the 14th guest I will be having on my show. But this is the first professional guest of any of the 4 major sports on my show. I am honestly honored to have him come on my show today. He is the host of NHL Network's NHL Tonight. I actually tuned in last night. I watch it basically every night. And he wasn't on it last night. Hopefully he's on it tonight. And he also does in-game updates, like what Scott Hansen does for NFL Red Zone. It's like one of those kind of fortes. And he also does and various other NHL Network studio programming. So before he calls me, I'm going to pull up my standings here once again for each of these divisions, and I'm honestly so excited for this. As I always say, on every single time I have a guest, it is the best interest to hear different people's opinions. Without having different opinions, what's it about and what's it worth? Absolutely nothing. I say it all the time, on every single show. Learned it in college, took a class in ethics about it, got to hear all the different viewpoints and scenarios. And that's the way I roll with a lot of things. It's not hard. You should be calling me any minute now. It's 11:45. It always takes like an extra minute or so here. That's okay. So, here he is. Hi, Jamison. How you doing today? I'm happy you were able to join me.
Hey, Glenn. How we doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm excited to ask you a few questions on here. So let me start with this. So what did you think of the Buffalo Sabres ending their 18-game skid last night? And do you think any changes for the Philadelphia Flyers are coming down the road?
All right, let's start with the positive, right? Buffalo, and you knew it was going to end at some point. So we're just happy for the fans in Buffalo, and it's such a great fan base, and for that team, it's not like they weren't working during the 18-game losing streak, right? So you could just sense the frustration, not only with the team, but in and around that city. And I don't know, we root for all 32 teams now at the NHL Network, so you never want to see a team go on a historic run of that magnitude. So I don't know, it was nice to see all the smiles on the guys' faces. You can see the relief on their faces at the end of the game, and then just Linus Ullmark in net throwing his hands up. You could see that proverbial monkey coming off their back. So it was good to see. I'm glad it's over. We can stop talking about it, stop beating up on the Buffalo Sabres. And who knows, maybe they can put together a little winning streak here starting tonight against the Rangers. As far as the Flyers go, yikes. I don't know. They certainly need some kind of shakeup in that room. We were talking on air at length about what the Flyers need, and both Mike Ruff and Kevin Weeks said, they lack that Philadelphia toughness that we've seen from this team in the past. And not that they're ever going to go back to the Broad Street Bullies days, because that's not how the league is anymore, but they don't have a Wayne Simmons on that team. They don't have any kind of grit or toughness or anybody that you don't really fear playing the Philadelphia Flyers these days. They've got the skill up front. Their defensive structure right now is kind of a mess. They seem locked out there, and I think that's a big reflection on the goaltenders and why their numbers look the way they are right now. So that team certainly needs a shakeup, and needs a shakeup fast, because things aren't getting fixed or getting better anytime soon. At least it doesn't seem from the outsider's perspective.
And now I'm going to try and put you on the spot here, Jameson. I said on my show earlier, the perfect wake-up call for the Flyers is this. And I've said this for years. The Philadelphia Flyers will never win the Stanley Cup as long as Claude Giroux is the captain. He has 1 year left on his contract. And they have a perfect trade partner with the Calgary Flames, with Johnny Gaudreau from the South New Jersey area. And the cap makes sense here. I said, I think you should trade Claude Giroux for Johnny Gaudreau and Sam Bennett and make Sean Couturier the captain. It would be a bolt, and I think Couturier is more of a gritty leader captain than Claude Giroux is. What do you think of my suggestion?
I don't hate it. Let's put it that way. When I said they need to shake things up, I think they need a big shake up. And, they've had that core there for quite some time. And, if you're going to keep somebody, it's going to be Sean Couturier, right? You need that 200-foot game. He's one of the best two-way players that we have in the National Hockey League. As far as Voracek and Giroux goes, and those guys have been there for a while. And, if Chuck Fletcher wants to make a big-time move, then that's a big-time move. I like what you said about bringing in a guy like Sam Bennett. We talked about that grit factor, that toughness. Sam Bennett does that, right? He's a forward who has some skill. He can play on all lines. He's kind of one of those elevator guys. You can plug and play from wherever you need him. But come playoff time, I think that's the kind of guy that you need in there. He's not afraid to get a little bit sandy. As far as Johnny Gaudreau goes, I think the change of scenery would be a good thing for him as well. It'll be interesting to see how his style meshes with who's behind the bench now in Daryl Sutter. We heard those comments, Sutter talking about Gaudreau approaching his 500th career game, and he's like, I hope he plays with more intensity than he did in 499. So I'm not sure how long that marriage is going to last. But as far as the type of guy that Johnny Hockey is in going to Philadelphia, I don't know if that's the kind of grit and toughness that you need in Philly. I don't know if that's going to solve the issues, because, in the course of his career, Johnny Gaudreau is kind of the guy who doesn't exactly elevate his game come playoff time, or at least we haven't seen that yet. And that's not to say that he can't do it. He just hasn't done it just yet. So, look, I think the Flyers have enough skill up front. I don't think Johnny Gaudreau is the piece that they're missing. I don't mind the Sam Bennett thing, but I think you're going to have to get a whole lot more in return if you're going to, part ways with a guy like Claude Giroux.
Right. Now, before I get into my next question, are you actually on the NHL network tonight?
I am, yes. On the air with Kevin Weeks and Mike Rupp tonight, 8 to 10:30
You think you could maybe bring that up to them, see what they have to say?
We'll see. The topic of Philly always seems to come up, and hey, I don't mind the Sam Bennett conversation, and I think it aligns with what those two guys were saying last night. And the topic of Johnny Gaudreau always seems to rear its head because we are approaching the trade deadline, and his name certainly comes up year in and year out, it seems like. So who knows? If the situation arises and calls for it, I may just have to slide your suggestion in there.
So now let me get into some more trade deadline stuff. Do you think the Pittsburgh Penguins, now that's my favorite hockey team, do you think they need to make a trade? Or do you think they're kind of a lightning in a bottle team because you got Evgeny Malkin out and Kasperi Kapanen, Brandon Tanev, and Jason Segura? I expect both of them back in the lineup tonight. And Teddy Bluger, I mean, you think Mike Sullivan should be the coach of the year?
I wouldn't go as far as coach of the year because, look, I think he's doing a good job, but I think there's other coaches out there that have done, more with a lot less. But as far as the Penguins go, I mean, they're red hot right now. They've won 4 in a row. I think that's the longest streak in the NHL, and, they're making do with what they have. And I think the big question mark coming into the season was the goaltending, with Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith. And I think it's been okay. I think they're starting to find their footing. And, of course, the Penguins are doing this without Malkin. And, historically we've seen that when Malkin's out, Crosby raises his game to another level. And then when Crosby's out, Malkin does the same. So I think all things considered, this team gets healthy. I think they're hitting their stride. And I still do think the question mark is between the pipes with this team. I think that separates them from what would be a mediocre run in the playoffs as opposed to a deep run in the playoffs. But, we've seen it before with Matt Murray there, unproven. And what's he do? He goes out and wins 2 Stanley Cup rings, as a rookie. So I think Pittsburgh's in an okay shape. You can never have enough depth. And I just saw, reports that they're kind of, interested in maybe adding another centerman as far as that position goes down the stretch. So, those guys don't just grow on trees out there, so there's far and few between, and everybody wants one this time of year. So we'll have to see what Pittsburgh does as far as getting aggressive. But, it seems like the new management structure that they have in place there with Ron Hextall and Brian Burke, they've come in and whatever they've done, and those subtle kind of shakeups and whatnot, it seems to have at least, awakened the guys inside that dressing room without having to make big or sweeping changes. So I think they got the message, and maybe if they add one more small complementary piece to that lineup, they're a team that you should never take lightly when they make the playoffs because, like we said, they have, Malkin and Crosby, and for the longest time, those guys have done serious damage against the opposition.
Yeah, that would probably be a good fit like a Sam Bennett, but I don't know what Calgary would want to. You said, I don't know if they would ask for like a first-round pick back or some prospects. I mean, Pittsburgh's not a very deep prospect pool unlike the Philadelphia Flyers. So now I said my final 4 teams, in honor of March Madness, I said the Washington Capitals, the Colorado Avalanche, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So my 2 questions are, who do you have as your final 4 teams right now? Number 1, I have Colorado over Tampa Bay in the Stanley Cup Final. And number 2, who is the biggest threat to the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Oh, I like that. And what's hard about this year is you don't know how it's going to play out, right? With the Final Four kind of thing. Like there's so much parity in these divisions. So let's go one by one. We'll start in the Central Division. I think Tampa Bay is the chalk, and they're only getting better, and they've got all these guys. Matthew Joseph is having himself a year down there in Tampa, so it just seems like they continue to find his guys. They bring them up from Syracuse, or the roster's just chock full of talent year in and year out. That some of these guys don't even get a chance to show you what they can do. Case in point, Carter Verhaeghe or Jonathan Marchessault the last couple of years down there. So I think Matthew Joseph is that new piece. They have so much depth. They're healthy when it comes to guys like Steven Stamkos. Andre Vasilevsky looks like he's going to win another Vezina trophy because he's running away with things. And then, oh, by the way, you get Nikita Kucherov, who's one of the most talented guys that we have in the game today. And he's going to be fresh and energized and ready to rock and roll as soon as this team hits the playoffs. But I think if there's a team that, can challenge the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think the Carolina Carolina Hurricanes right now. They're just consistently good day in and day out. I think they play a tough brand of hockey that I think translates well to the playoffs. We saw them go to the Eastern Conference Final not too long ago. So I think they embody kind of the mindset that their coach has, Rob Brindamore. I think they're deep, they're youthful. Again, question mark there would be goaltending, but the youngster Nedeljkovic has been good. Reimer's been good, so it's kind of goalie by committee there. But if you're, asking me to make a choice, I probably have Tampa coming out of the Central in the West. Whew, all things considered and healthy, I think Colorado can finally, make a deep run this year. They proved it. They just absolutely waxed Arizona last night. Jonas Donskoy had the hat trick 7.5 minutes into that game. They're healthy again, right? They've got Bowen Byram. He's coming back. They've got Cale Makar. I think he's kind of the straw that stirs that drink. That top line is healthy. You're starting to see some secondary scoring with Jonas Donskoy, Malcolm Kadri, Andre Burakovsky. So as good as Vegas is and has been, I think this is finally the year for the Colorado Avalanche. Then in the East, I got to go with Washington, right? Until they prove me wrong otherwise. I think Vitek Vanacek has just been, he's come out of nowhere, and what a blessing that guy's been. I know Ilya Samsonov was kind of the heir apparent to Braden Holtby, and, they obviously had plans for Henrik Lundqvist, and, that didn't quite work out how everybody predicted. But I think Washington's in great shape. I think Ovi's hungry. Backstrom's having himself a career year. John Carlson looks incredible, and nobody else in the NHL has a Tom Wilson. And as good as Tom Wilson is in the regular season, Tom Wilson is such a difference maker come playoff time. So I'll take Washington in the East, and then in the North Division, my goodness, pick your poison. I don't know. I just don't know about Toronto. Jack Campbell looks incredible right now. I think Freddie Anderson's still the guy once he comes back. It's hard to pick against Winnipeg because they are deep and they are tough, and I think they're built to win not only in the regular season but in the playoffs. And they've got the reigning Vezina Trophy winner in Connor Hellebuck, and he's about as good as it gets when it comes to goaltending in the NHL. So I'm going to go with Winnipeg in the North Division. So those are my 4 teams. And then what was your other question? Sorry, I rambled on there. But
oh no, that's okay. I was just gonna say who the biggest threat to the Lightning is.
Who's the biggest contender to the Bulls? I would say Colorado in the Stanley Cup Final. If we get that far. And I'm just as a fan, I want to see that because I think those two styles would make for incredible, entertaining television. Right, up and down, all kinds of skill. Not only at forward, but on the blue line, they've got Hedman. There's Makar in there. You name it. That would be must-see TV. So that's the matchup I'm looking for.
I agree with your Final Four picks. Thank you for coming on, Jameson.
You bet.
I agree with your Final Four picks. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk later.
All right. Thanks, Glenn.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. We're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend as well. We will be back on the air at the same time on Monday to go over more topics. And once again, thank you, Jameson Coyle of the NHL Network, for coming on to my show. And I am glad we see eye to eye in our Final Four picks. So I hope you all enjoy your wonderful weekend. We'll go over more NHL, NBA, MLB, and NFL topics. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.